Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now this is something different than I normally don't talk about. I am here at a really secluded suburban area, my home city, and I wanted to actually talk about something that I do talk about occasionally, but I don't really talk about a lot. And that is politics. So if it's something you don't want to listen to here, you could go and watch one of my other videos. This is something I wanted to talk about. So I know the election is over. It's been over for almost a month now, and I originally wanted to make it after the election, like days after, but one, I was really busy with my job and it's been hectic lately. I had some mixed reactions about who I voted for this year, because as somebody who has autism, somebody who's also goth, and somebody who is very much brutally honest on Twitter. Let's be honest, if you've been to my Twitter, I'm way more brutally honest over there than any other platform. So the person I actually voted for this year, ironically enough, is not in a political party that's the color of my hair. So I actually voted for red this year, and I did last year when I voted for Donald Trump. Yeah, you heard that right. As somebody who's gone, who has autism, I actually voted for Trump this year. Now, I know not everybody's going to agree with me on that. Amir, Autumn, and Blair White's videos on why they voted for Trump, despite, the social stereotypes on them, why they actually are voting for Trump before the election. I'm going to put those videos down in the description below. They pretty much exactly said everything that I 100% agree on when it comes to why I voted for Donald Trump myself. The reason why I voted for Donald Trump is actually for these main reasons. Number one, definitely about the illegal immigrants, the migrants coming over here in the U.S. We have a huge problem with that, and I know the U.S. is not the only country that has a huge problem with that. I know Germany, Canada, Britain, and those other first world countries have huge problems with that. I know Sweden has pretty much said that they're not going to let any more immigrants come in because they've had so many of the illegal ones coming in their home countries and committing crime over there. Most of those countries, I just kind of said, were definitely the most easily targeted by the illegals coming in, because we pretty much enable it. We pretty much have enabled a lot of the illegals coming in, especially after Joe Biden won the last election during the pandemic. If you know anything, I can't stand the guy, and I especially cannot stand Kamala Harris, so do expect me, as somebody who's goth and somebody on the spectrum, never trusted this woman for once, and they've actually allowed a lot more illegals coming in because of our lack of control on the border. So thankfully, now that Donald Trump has been re-elected again, hopefully our border control back in control again, so we don't let the illegals come in without paperwork and without green cards. That's only part of the issues, but mostly because we're done with these criminals getting pretty much away with almost everything, while the rest of the actual citizens who's been here legally have been punished a lot more. That's the first reason. The second reason why I voted for Donald Trump was also because, as somebody who pretty much is in low income, who works in retail, we really don't get paid a whole lot. But I know when I used to work at my old job at Big Lots before the pandemic, I was actually making quite a lot of money. My income tax refund was a lot better too when he was in office. So it's another reason why, because I know a lot of people are sick and tired of their money pretty much getting taken away from part of their paychecks, and I am too. Now I understand that, the government has to take some part of your paycheck, but to the point where it's almost like half of your paycheck is beyond ridiculous, and especially for somebody who's more low income middle class like me. So that's another reason why I voted for Trump, because I know my money during my checking and savings looked a lot more fat than it is now. And it looked a lot better when he was in office last time. So that's the other reason. Third reason is because, now this is controversial for me to say this, but it's due to more common sense coming back again in this country. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but as somebody who was taught to treat others the way you want to be treated, to not demand respect, I've noticed that a lot of the extreme liberals definitely like to demand that, and knowing what a lot of schools they were teaching about, like, you know, what kind of pronouns to use to people, and part of the trans community, which sounds fine at first on paper, but we're talking about like really little kids. You're first teaching to not, you know, 1 through 10s or A to Z's or just basic science and math like you normally would have expected like 20, 30 years ago. They want to basically, you know, focus on like youngest preschoolers to be teaching about like, you know, sex, gender, which there's a time and place for that at a certain age, but when they're that little, they're not ready to understand that kind of stuff yet. And I know a lot of like elementary schools so far in the US is stopped doing that on certain parts of the US because of that. Because a lot of predatory teachers and a lot of manipulative teachers would basically just force that and shove that to the children's faces like that, which, listen, I don't mind people who are part of the LGBT community. I'm the last person to be judging on that. But when you enforce that kind of idea in the public school system and make them think that's the only thing that they should care about, no, it's a lot more than just that. I know when I was in school many years ago, this is really aging me when I say this, but back when I was in high school, we didn't really have classes like that. So what we had was basically like adult living, like teaching how to do basic cooking and how to pay bills when you get to your own place. And basically, I didn't really learn about sex ed until I was like in 7th grade back in middle school. So I think it's a more appropriate age to start learning that and not make it perverted. But a lot of these public schools are making it pretty perverted about that. I know in Iowa, they're saying it in the media in my home state that Iowa is banning like transitioning on the transgender community, but that's not the case. What's really the case is that what's really been happening is that we've been banning children to transition, not just the transgender community itself. We've been banning underage transitioning. That's what's really going on. And the fact that the media played out like it's just transgender people in general, no, that's a load of shit. And also, that's the other reason why I voted for Trump, because he wants to bring common sense back to schools again. And don't blame him on that. I'm all for the LGBT community, but there's a limit when you're shoving it around their faces. It's like when the extreme religious Bible thumpers Christians shove it down your face to praise the Lord and just do what he says or you're going to hell. That's not okay either. And guess what? I know Donald Trump is technically a Christian, but he never really shoved that around people's faces, which is a good thing because he still believes in separation from church and state. That's a whole different situation on that, but it's mostly been the extreme liberals just been teaching kids on basically the SJW's versions of the LGBT community. Do not like that. And even people who I have watched that are part of the LGBT community, they're the ones that don't even like that either. That's doing that to children. So this walk is making me tired already. And the last other reason why I voted for Donald Trump is because he's brutally honest. Just for the matter of fact that he's not really even a politician. He's technically a businessman. It's sad when I have to say that a businessman was better as president than the majority of the politicians in the past 20 to 50 years. That's really sad when I have to say that. That's the last reason, is because just like me, I'm brutally honest, and I know when I was voting for Donald Trump, I know he wasn't going to be my best friend. I knew he wasn't going to be like, hey buddy, old pal, we could talk anytime. That's just not realistic. I don't think and let's face it, with any politician, they're not your best friend. Let's be realistic. The fact that he's just says like what he's really thinking about, sure, there's things I don't agree with, but I wouldn't go as far as that he's harming people like a lot of the politicians have over the past years since I was even alive. So I'm glad there's somebody who's not going to bullshit around others and thinking that everybody else is special when the whole world isn't involved around everybody else. Sure, it may look like that way with him sometimes when the media portrays him as this narcissistic guy with one of the worst toothpaste ever. I mean, if that's really the only biggest criticism that I have with Donald Trump is that he needs a different toupee. I mean, the guy is wealthy. I mean, good God. I wish I had the amount of money he had, you know? But the thing is, sure, he did grow up in a more well-established family, but he still was taught about respecting others, not demanding respect, and basically common sense and just working your way out. And that's the other problem with this generation. Don't want to sound like a granny, but a lot of this generation don't want to work hard anymore for what they've done. And he believes in that again. And I'm glad we're having a president that looks at workers first before people who are on welfare. Sorry, but if you're somebody who is intentionally not working their ass off, that you're not really extremely disabled and you're just sucking off the government, that's on you. Especially the ones that have children. He does not tolerate that either. Neither do I. So yeah, that's really the last reason why I voted for Trump. I hope this video wasn't too much of a mess for you. I just wanted to point out, as somebody as me who, as a goth, are expected to vote for liberal all the time, that's not always the case. In fact, I had people on my Instagram, even on Twitter, that, you know, there weren't a lot, but have said, hey, listen, I'm goth, and I'm not voting for Kamala Harris either, so I can't be the only one. So there's others like me who are even on the spectrum who are even goth too. I mean, I had one comment when I was commenting on one of Blair White's videos here, saying that she's goth, autistic, and even bisexual, and she's voting for Trump. I think that should tell you that we're just done with the woke shit. We are just done. Thank you all for watching. Need to take a breath because I am getting really tired from doing that, but I need a good exercise. As you could tell, I need to be in shape, but that's the last thing. It's not that important. But if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to like any more of my content, and if you like any of my other videos, hit the subscribe button down below. I also have my link tree down below with all my social medias and even my art shops. So thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Make America great again.